see a lot of smiles in the congregation because Ben is surely an articulate young man. And we thank you, Ben, for being a leader of the next generation of Heidelberg United Church of Christ. To put this pericope that Ben so eloquently read of our gospel lesson into context, or proper context, we first need to understand who actually is speaking and to whom. We also need to back up a bit into the prior verses to understand what they were talking about. Jesus had been answering a question about what marriage will look like in heaven that the Sadducees had asked him. The Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection to begin with. The scribe who heard the conversation would have been intrigued with the discourse, so he had a question of his own to ask Jesus. The scribe would have been very knowledgeable about the scriptures since his life was committed to making sure that every copy he made of the holy manuscripts were exactly the same. He wants to know which commandment that God gave to Moses is the most important. A few weeks ago, our scriptures were about James and John wanting to be the most important in the eyes of Jesus. Evidently, human nature is such that we have certain priorities. And oftentimes, these priorities give direction to how we live our lives and what is critical in our thinking and our actions. The question is a debate many Christians still have today, and especially many seminarians. Which commandment is the first of all? Sometimes it's because people want to justify their actions. If the commandment not to kill was the most important, then we could justify not worshiping God and claim that we are a good person if we have not murdered anyone. But Jesus sums up all of God's commandments into his answer, quote, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength," end quote. Loving God means that you worship him. You make time for him. You revere him. You appreciate him. You give thanks to him. And you keep his commandments. Loving God means that you fear him. Not in a sense that you're afraid, but in a sense that you understand and recognize his power and his grace. His power to smite us like we might smite a fruit fly buzzing around in our house. His power to cause the earth to stand still. His power to cause the sun to come into being. His power to create life itself. His power to create sustenance for us to feed upon. His power to hold back the mighty oceans and quiet a raging storm. His power to heal us when we're broken. His power to raise us from the dead when this life has come to an end. His grace to love us when we are not loving to others. His grace to forgive us when we are sincere about repentance. His love to send his only begotten Son as an atonement for our sin in order that we would be reconciled with him on our day of judgment. think many people today don't fear consequences? We have a man who annihilated 11 people in the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh just because of their heritage. People he probably never had a conversation with. People he probably never tried to be friends with. People he had very little knowledge about. People who were worshiping God. He had no fear of the consequences. No fear of the consequences for those he shot. No fear of the consequences for the loved ones of those he shot. No fear of the consequences of the people of this nation who are shocked and angry about such a heinous act of violence. No fear of being sent to jail. No fear of being shot and killed himself. No fear of the consequences in the life to come. No fear of God whatsoever. No fear that would prevent him from carrying out whatever hateful, sinful, uncivilized act he wanted to. We are currently living in a nation where many people seem to be living on the edge of life. They believe, like the Sadducees, that there is no resurrection. They believe that when this life is over, it's simply over and there's nothing else. The fear of God helps us with checks and balances to live life in love and in concert with life itself. Listen to the reason God gave Moses for giving the people his commandments from Deuteronomy 5:28-29, quote, "The Lord heard your words when you spoke to me, and the Lord said to me, I have heard the words of this people, which they have spoken to you. They are right in all they have spoken." If only they had such a mind as this, to fear me, and to keep all my commandments always, so that it might go well with them and their children forever. So that it might go well with them and their children forever. God wants it to go well with us. Can you imagine what the world would be like if everyone obeyed all of God's commandments all of the time? There would be no need for gun control, or border walls, or jails, or lawyers, or judges, or Supreme Court nominees. This is not intended to be a political or a politicized message, because my only purpose here is to point out how much it makes sense to keep God's laws. How much it makes sense to keep all of humankind free and safe from poverty. If we would only love God and love our neighbor, life would be full of bliss. The saints that we mentioned today are in that place of bliss, thank God. The place where God's law reigns. We have to wait to get there. They are right there now. No more suffering. No more hate. Just pure love. God's love. We need to let that sink in. We are dwelling in the place of suffering because of sin. When God's reign becomes rule, then we will live in harmony and peace. God asks us now to love the Lord our God with all want us to just love him 50% or 25%. He wants us to love him fully, 100%. All of our heart, all of our soul, all of our mind, all of our strength. How do we do that? By keeping our eyes focused on Jesus. Without doing that, we get distracted. Someday, the world will be introduced to the Prince of Peace himself, in person, instead of through us as ambassadors for Christ. In the meantime, let us show the world God's light and God's love and compassion and generosity and grace. For when we do, we glorify the one whom we serve and call Master.